Guys, Saduma here again. Here is lesson 4 of the topic on relations and functions. In this lesson, we are going to classify relations. This topic is important because now it gives you a chance to start looking at exercises in our MYP5 textbooks or the Math AI textbook. Okay. Before we begin, very briefly what we're going to be looking at here. The first thing there is going to be just an opening problem to see what this is about. The second thing we will look at will be classifying relations. All right, we are getting to the end of this so that we can start with functions proper. So we will classify relation, and this will now really make us understand how this relates to or connects with functions. Okay, so we'll classify relations, and after that we'll look at some of the examples. Okay, we're going to make this lesson short and take a look at a number of examples before we go into the next section, which is going to be the introduction of functions and definition of functions. Okay, after we've defined functions and looked at some of them and related it or compared it with relations, we will look at examples and identify. In these examples we will be given different relations, and we will see which ones qualify as functions. Okay, and then you will have an opportunity to look at some solved problems, and then you will also get a chance to solve some questions yourself. Okay, so let's get on with it then. All right, so here is an opening problem. So it says below are three relations R1, R2, and R3 represented as ordered pairs. Okay, so there is the first one, there is the second one, and there is the third one. Okay, the question is, draw the mapping diagrams for each of these relations. So we start with the first relation there. We want to draw a mapping diagram. Of course, to draw a mapping diagram, you need that the x side and you need the y side. Okay, straight away. We look for the x values. The inputs are the first values in the ordered pairs. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, on the other side we have -5, and we can connect straight away because 0 maps onto -5. Then we have -4 there, and 1 maps onto -4, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right, so we have a mapping for this ordered pair. Now what you notice here, and this is what we are introducing now to help us with the discussion, what you notice is every element from the domain maps onto one element in the range. Okay, one input maps onto exactly one output like that. So we note that every element in the domain X, this side, maps onto exactly one element in the range. Okay, because of that, we refer to this as a one-to-one mapping or one-to-one relation. Okay, so this is a new term, a one-to-one relation or a one-to-one mapping, because this is a mapping diagram, but it is a relation. So a one-to-one relation, this is important. Okay, so in short, for this ordered pair can also be described as a one-to-one relation because each element from the input maps onto exactly one element in the output. Okay, you can see that with the arrows. All right, let's look at the second one. -1, -7, and so on. So again, we draw the mapping diagram. Start with the x values, the y values there. The x values are -1, 1, -1, 0. So I've gone to 0 first because in ascending order, 0 is appearing twice there, so I'm only going to put it once. Okay, then there is a 1, there is a 2. Okay, I think that's it. Is there something bigger? No. And so the output or the range is -1 is to -7, so we can join those. 0, if we go to 0, 0 is to -2, okay? But 0 is also to 5, so we need to put a 5 there. So 0 also maps onto 5 there. And then we have 1 mapping onto 0, and we have 2 mapping onto -3. Now, if you look at this mapping, it's slightly different from what we saw earlier, in that what we saw earlier, each input had an arrow connected to just one output. But here now we have 0 splitting up and connecting to 2 elements in the output, okay? So one element, at least one case, in this particular case, where one element in the input maps onto 2 elements in the output. Because of that, okay, so this is what we note. Okay, because of that, this kind of a mapping or relation is referred to as a one-to-many. So this, in this case, 0 is mapping onto 2. It could have mapped into 3 and so on. So if any one of them maps onto 2 or more on the output, we refer to this as a one mapping to many. So a one-to-many relation. Okay, so this is a one-to-many relation. So we've talked about a one-to-one, and now this is a one-to-many relation. All right, the third one there, let's see, once again, we drew the mapping diagram. We have the smallest there is 0, I think, followed by 1, then by 2, then a 3, and there is a 4 there. Okay, put in the output. So 2, 0 maps onto 2, I think, yes. And then we have a 1 mapping onto 2. So 0 is mapping onto 2, but so is 1 mapping onto 2, okay? 2 maps onto 3, 3 maps onto -1, and 4 maps onto -5, like that. So when you look at this mapping diagram, you notice now there is a difference, that there are 2 on the input mapping onto 1 on the output. This type of a relation or a mapping is referred to as a many-to-one mapping or many-to-one relation. So it could be, in this case, we have 2, which is the many mapping onto 1. We could have had 3, we could have had 4, and so on. So this type of a relation is referred to as a many-to-one mapping or a many-to-one relation, okay? So 2 or more elements in the domain maps onto 1 element in the range, and this is what we refer to as a many-to-one relation. We could also have a many-to-many relation, like that. But we don't have to talk about that once you understand what it means to say many-to-one, or in the previous case where we had 1 getting to many, like that, okay? So this is a many-to-one relation. Let's move on then, hoping that you've understood this. Here is a question, your turn, all right? Classify the following relations into one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-one relation, or many-to-many relation, okay? Classify that. So here are some questions. I want you to try this yourself. See if you can handle it. All right, just pause the video and try them out, okay? Otherwise, I'm moving ahead. Okay, here's another one. Classify the following relations into one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, or many-to-many relation or mapping. Okay, so this time the relation is given not as an ordered pair as before, but as a graph. Okay, if we are going to do this, the best thing, of course, eventually you can just look at it and see that this is, you know, which one of them it is. It should be easy to see this, but let's just go a little in a more structured way. So what you want to do is to identify the x values. That means the domain, okay? So if you look here, this is the farthest on this side. The x value there is -6. Then we have this one talking about moving this way. Then after this, the next one for the value of x is this one here, which is -4. So we have -6, -4, and these two share -3 for the value of x. All right. After that, we have a 1 there for the value of x. Then we have a 2 for this one here. And then we have an x value of 5 for that one there. So in terms of the input values, we have -6, which is this one here. X value is -6 there. All right. Then we have an x value of -4 for this data value here, -4. Then we have an x value of -3 that is shared by those two. Then we have 1 and 2 and 5. Okay, like that. And then we go to the output side, and again now we are looking at the values of y. Okay, so what's the lowest value of y there? I can see there is a -4. All right, and then these two data points share -2 there, I believe. And then we have the next one going up. The next one should be this one, which is at 1. Okay, the y value is 1. Then we have this one here, the y value is 2. Then we have that one, the y value is 3, followed by the last one there where the y value is 6. Okay, and now we draw the mapping. Okay, -6 connects with 1, because when x is -6, y is 1 there. All right, when x is -4, that is here, x is -4, y is also -4, so -4 here maps onto -4. All right, then we have -3. Now look at -3. -3 maps onto -2 for the value of y, but -3 also maps onto that value there, which is 3. So -3 maps onto -2, but it also maps onto 3. Okay, should already be able to identify this mapping or this relation. 1 maps onto 2. 1, x value of 1 maps onto 2, and x value of 2 maps onto -2. So you can see -3 and 2 maps onto 1, right? So this bit -3 there maps onto -2 and 3. So this is a one to many, but this and this, -3 and 2, also map onto 1 there, which makes this a many to 1. Okay, and therefore already you should be able to see that this is a many to many mapping. Easy stuff, really, if you can take your time to look at it keenly. All right, so that's how we do that. Here is your turn. I want you to, in the same way, find out what relation this is. Is it a 1 to 1, a 1 to many, a many to 1, or a many to many relation? I want you to try that out. Okay, here is one, a relation that is given in the form of a table. Classify this into, one of those. Looking at the table carefully, you only need to concentrate on the x values. Looking at the table carefully, I can see that's 9, -20, -6, -17, and 9. So 9 is appearing twice. Okay, so without bothering to draw everything, I know that when I draw this, I'm going to have 9 mapping onto -18, and it's also going to map onto 17. So we have a scenario where we have 1 mapping to many, so this is clearly a 1 to many mapping. Okay, so I'm not putting in the rest of the numbers which I could put here, and I could also put these ones here, the output on this side. I don't need to put all of them there, as long as I can identify one case where we have mapping into, 1 mapping into 2. That is enough to tell me that this is a 1 to many mapping, or a 1 to many relation. Okay, a relation given in the form of a table. Okay, so this is a 1 to many relation. Let's move on. This is your turn now. Try this one out. Find out which relation this is in terms of 1 to many and so on. Okay. This is another one. Again, your chance to try. So I've given you two tables to try out. This is the first one that you're trying out, and that is the second one I want you to try out, okay? All right. Here is another one. Now you're given the mapping directly, and it is your job to see whether this is a one-to-one, a many-to-one, a one-to-many, or a many-to-many mapping. It is your turn to find out what that is. Please do it, and let's discuss your results there. Should be straightforward if you've been listening. Here is another one that I want you to try out. That there is -9, just in case the arrow there is blocking it a little. Okay, another one for you. Okay, this is a mapping diagram. Determine whether it is a one-to-one, a one-to-many, a many-to-one, or a many-to-many relation. Okay, here are some relations given in the form of graphs. How do we determine whether the relations are one-to-one, one-to-many, and so on? So in this case, what you want to do is think of a value of x, all right? So let's say pick a value of x of 4, okay? What is the value of y when x is 4? Well, to get it, you have to drop down to the graph there and read across like that, okay? So this, for a value of 4, there is only one value of y, okay? And if you pick a value of x equal to 2, and you want to know the value of y, again you drop this down, okay, down there, and read across, of course, read across like that, and you will know the value of y, okay? So you can see by just looking at this, pick a value of 8, 8 is here, draw a vertical like that to go and meet the graph up there, and then read across to be able to tell the value of y, okay? What you notice that in this graph, every x value has only one value of y. So because of that, this is a one-to-one relation, or a one-to-one mapping, okay? What about this one? What about this one? In this case, at x is -8, at x is -8, we have to go down because the graph is down, we will get -4. At x is -4, we come down and read somewhere there, we'll get some value. There's only one value, okay? At x is 0, I'm picking just a few points, of course, this is continuous, so any values should work. At x is 0, I'll come in here, and the value of y is somewhere there, okay? At x is maybe 1, the same, just one value. But see what happens when we get to x is 4. At x equals 4, now I have a value down here, but I also have a value up here. And because of that, now one x value is giving me a y value down there, excuse me, and it's also giving me a y value up there. So a single x value is giving me two y values. That is equivalent to being on the domain side, having an x value of 4, giving me two values of y, giving me a value of, let's say, what? Let's say negative, that could easily be 3.5. So negative 3.5, for example, and another value up there of positive 3.5. So already, because of this, this is a one-to-many mapping, okay? Because we have two or more outputs. So when you have a scenario like this, this is a one-to-many, this is a one-to-one mapping, okay? I hope you got this. We can always do more examples, but it's coming up again big time, okay? Right. This is going to be a short lesson so that you can tackle some those questions that I've already started giving you. Okay. Next. All right. So we've determined that this is a one-to-one relation. This is a many-to-one relation. It would have been a one-to-one relation if we didn't have this side that is coming back like that, right? So up to this point here, it would have been a one-to-one relation. But because of this section interferes, because the values of x starting from around somewhere there, going this way, they have a value there as well as another value there. And that renders the whole thing now a one-to-many mapping. Okay, here is your turn. This is a circle. If you remember lesson 3, this is a circle with some center there. Classify this as whether it is a one-to-one, a one-to-many, many-to-one, or many-to-many relation. Okay, you're looking at the value of x and seeing whether for one value of x you have more values of y or vice versa, right? Okay. Here's another one for you. Okay, categorize this in terms of what you have there. All right, and that then is the end of this very short video. Please use the opportunity to look at those questions. In lesson number 5, we will now introduce functions for sure. All right, thank you very much. See you in lesson number 5.